Barcelona versus Celta de Vigo, much like Barcelona versus Real Betis, is usually a fun matchup, full of two teams that usually want to play, and two teams that usually want to play with the ball. And this game was fun when Barcelona was up 3-0, before things got a bit unfortunate and interesting for all the wrong reasons. So let's talk about it. Here are the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 3-1 win over Celta de Vigo. 1 is overshadowed. It's a shame that we can't speak about the goals to start, but they were overshadowed by what this game became. Starting in the 58th minute when Jason Murillo got the red card, this game was completely thrown out of whack. Yeah, the game was hard to watch late on, but the hardest part of this match to watch was obviously the injury to Ronald Araujo, when he smacked head with Gabi, took a few steps, and then crumbled to the ground unconscious. It was a really scary moment, and fortunately, Celta de Vigo legend Iago Aspas was on the scene pretty quickly. A reminder that it is just a game, and a reminder too that many of your opponents will also do the right thing. And also note Eric Garcia, who was also very quick to the scene and was able to roll Ronald Araujo onto his side. So fortunately, nothing worse happened, didn't swallow his tongue or anything like that, and Garcia and Aspas potentially saved his life. Hopefully Araujo can make a quick recovery, but that is a scary thing, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he's held out these last few games just to get to 100% before he goes off for the summer with Uruguay, as well as getting him right for next season. For those who are watching the channel for a while, you know where I'm going with this next part, and that's the other side of it. I think Xavi and the officials got it wrong in regards to Gabi. He was the other person in that collision, and I saw very little to no concussion protocol for him, and he stayed in and finished the remainder of that game. While we did get news that Araujo's doing okay, I want to remind everybody that with some personal experience, that just because you're okay with a concussion the day of and things are manageable, head injuries are something that follow you throughout your life and affect your sleep, ability to look at screens, and a ton of other things. Of course, I wanted to get a look at Ronald Araujo for him to make his first team debut, and it wouldn't be at the expense of Gabi getting injured. That's not how I would want to see Araujo. But Gabi probably should have come out of this game. Instead, it was 5 other players that were subbed in. Of course, one of those being Lenglet for Araujo. But the point still stands. I think Gabi should have been removed from that game when that collision happened the same. I want to thank OneFootball for sponsoring this video. OneFootball is the app I use to keep myself up to date on all things FC Barcelona, everything I need to know, as well as check on every other team that Alemany could be scouting right now for a big summer transfer window. With a custom-tailored homepage, stay up to date with breaking news, live scores, and even transfer news. While on the go, you can check with matches in live time and watch videos afterwards. Use the link in the description for a free download of OneFootball on Android or iOS to put all of your football in one place. And you'll help out a tiny Barca channel too. Thanks to OneFootball again for sponsoring this video. Now back to the Barca business. 2 is no control. And speaking of subs, I try to usually start with the positive and we throw the little negative stuff in there at the end. And it feels like we're definitely covering all the negative of this match before getting to any of the positive, because there were some good things to talk about. But having watched the match, one thing that you cannot speak to is Barcelona having much control. Yeah, they had more possession, but they certainly did not control the match at home. Starting the game in that 4-4-2 or 3-3-3-1, whatever you want to call that formation, it was clear that the middle of the field didn't exist for Barca. The constant balls straight from the back line to the forward line, many of which had too much pace on them or were wide of their target, did not help Barca control this game. And you can obviously point to the lack of Busquets. Barca's going to not only have less possession, but is going to have a hard time dictating the tempo and pace of a match. And again, this all coming right after seeing what Busquets did against Real Betis, where he was absolutely fantastic in that category. The points of that lack of Busquets also mean you have to blame Frankie de Jong. And I don't put much of that lack of control on him. I think it was more of an entirety of personnel issue more than it was one individual. If anything, it's a credit to some Barca players who are playing completely out of position or in regular spots that they're not used to. Jordi Alba being an inverted midfielder, not a left back, nothing like that, no, an inverted left interior, and Memphis Depay defending so deep, but also dropping in so deep that we just have to call him Raquelme number 10. But even with that credit, Barca had no grasp of this match, and usually I say deserve. Well, I thought Barcelona's first goal was a bit undeserved. It felt like it wasn't necessarily against the run of play, not that Celta did much better, but I don't know if Barca really deserved to get 3 goals to start the scoring. And on the topic of deserving, Ferran Torres didn't deserve the jeers from the home crowd, but he did deserve a rest and to probably come out of that game first of all the forwards in it. And Torres coming off at halftime meant that Puig got introduced to this game, and I've gone over this a ton of different times. We'll do it again on the podcast. I don't have much on Riqui Puig's performance in the moment. For me, it just felt like a nice little send-off for him because, as I've said many times, I don't see him surviving the summer transfer window. And him coming on at halftime was also an admission by Xavi that he got his starting 11 wrong. And not necessarily wrong that he should have had Puig starting, but wrong that he should have had three midfielders on the field, and Puig, obviously being the only first-team midfield option, was the man to come in for the second half. 3 is looking ahead, kind of staying with that no-control topic, but this time it's no self-control. In the last 20 minutes of that match, Eric Garcia, Jordi Alba, and Frankie de Jong and Alba in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the match, picking up late yellows, meaning all 3 of them will now miss the game against Getafe on the weekend. Speculation of lineups is for the podcast later in the week for that Getafe preview, but what I will say, even with Busquets back to that midfield, that back line for Barcelona and the shape of how they're going to defend is certainly something that you're going to watch from the first whistle until the final whistle, especially when it's time to bring on subs into that game. 4 is once Dembele got it. Fortunately for Barca against Getafe, they likely will have Dembele. And just like this match against Celta de Vigo, it felt like the game didn't begin until the ball was finally put at the feet of Dembele. Prior to his first assist, 30 minutes in, he had only 13 touches of the ball and had only taken 5 of 6 passes completed before he set up that first goal. He nutmegged Barca target Javi Gailan, got by another, and set up Memphis to buy. It was the same thing in the second half. Barca build up from the back of Aubameyang, and Aubameyang is the one who starts the move. A nice ball to Dembele, and then he again, that being Dembele, changed pace, got up the wing, picked his head up, and found the square ball. You also know the moments that I do praise Dembele is when he decides to defend. And he did defend on the day, especially at the start of the second half, tracking all the way back to that corner flag and doing his job getting the ball back for his team. And while they didn't combine for a goal, Ansu Fati joining the fray late, combining with Dembele, just gave us a little taste of what could be with Ansu Fati in that free roll up top and Dembele just being a master on the wing and attracting so many other players to him. So when Ansu goes over, Celta de Vigo kind of saying, you can see their back line, how many are we going to put over just to guard those two when they're passing it so closely to each other with, at a drop of a hat, either of them could at 100 miles an hour come towards our goal to create something. And the unfortunate part of that is while we did get a little bit of taste, I don't think we're ever really going to get the main course because as we know for Dembele is very, very unlikely at this point. 5 is final product. For all the other negativity, Barcelona did put 3 past Celta de Vigo in a game that they're fighting for to continue to put a stranglehold on second place, where it does seem like with this result, they will finish second in the league. That means that, as Xavi had said, they were fighting for the Supercopa, but as we know, that's not that big of a deal, but it is a little bit of payday, and this club could use every bit of cash that they can get in any competition they play in next season. But more importantly, it was a goals, no funny business here, just really direct scoring on Celta de Vigo, a backline that wasn't ready for the speed and the movement and the ingenuity of 4 Barca forwards at the same time. The second goal, it was Alba to Memphis and a finish by Aubameyang with his shin, where Ferran Torres might have also got that goal. And then the third one, Dembele to Aubameyang again. Aubameyang and Memphis now both with 13 goals on the season, joint top for Barca. It is interesting that they'll both probably be around next season. And you know what? Looking at the summer transfer stuff, Barca are going to need a similar output from them again. Fortunately, Memphis scored his 13 while missing some time to injury, and Aubameyang scored his in half a season. And finally, I do again want to give a shout to Iago Aspas, the Celta legend who has 43.9% of his team's goal contributions this year. Now, that one he scored today, though, probably the easiest of that 43.9% because it was just a terrible mistake between Araujo and Ter Stegen. A lot of the blame is definitely going to go on the goalkeeper, and it is frustrating because, again, there are so many Ter Stegen doubters. We hear them in full voice, and up to that point, he had a good game. That parry away, that strong left hand in the first half should have been the highlight, but unfortunately, that's going to be a low light, and Barcelona wind up finishing that game with a 3-1 lead, one that, if it had been 3-0, would have felt a bit more comfortable in that second half, even though Celta de Vigo were down a man, and again, Ter Stegen just not going to cover himself in glory that day. And after all that, it was a weird game. It felt like a comfortable home win at times, but certainly overshadowed by all the negative things, the injuries, the yellow cards, and just some helter-skelter play and a lack of control in the match. As I already noted, we do have some more to speak about this game on the podcast this week, and then it's the matchup against Getafe on the weekend. So until then, as always, Forza Barca.